Welcome to our very first Kings of War battle report. I'm Visibly Riley, and today we have Ogres versus Trident Realms. This game was 2250, and we played the scenario Invade. Here we can see the Trident Realms list. This was piloted by my good friend Aaron. He's very new to Kings of War. In fact, I believe that this is his very first game. But don't let that fool you. He's a veteran gamer, and I've been playing him since, I believe, 6th Ed Warhammer Fantasy, so quite a long time. Here you can see we begin with his undead allies. Excuse me. He has 2 troops of wraiths, a legion of zombies, and a necromancer to round it out. I believe the idea is that the zombies and necromancer would help form a center line, while the wraiths act sort of as 2 more knuckers, running up the flank, harassing, general stuff. I think these are more of a modeling thing than they are a serious consideration, so I don't know what to think of him. In the meat of his list, he has the Trident. He has he has the ensnares, a horde of those with the dragon shard shield. Always a good combo, super defensive. A troop of Thule, a horde of Gigas, a horde of Worm Riders, a Kraken, 2 Knuckers, a Thule Mythicin with Lightning Bolt and Inspiring, a Placoderm Defender, and a Worm Rider Centurion. I think the only part about this list I immediately don't like is the Defender. I don't see why it's in the list. It's 110 points of a hero that's only inspiring itself. He doesn't have a lot of inspiring at all on the list. In fact, he only has 2, which is okay, I guess, but a lot of these things are going at different speed, with the Gigas being at speed 4, the Knuckers at 9, right? 6, 8, it's all over the place. The Undead are another thing. Sorry. I'm not a big fan of running undead as allies at all, but each person has their own play speed. So moving on, we've got the ogre list. This is a list I've been playing recently, a decent amount. I'm going to a tournament in about 2 weeks, so it's sort of set, the models at least, because I only have 2 weeks to paint them. So anyway, we have a horde of warriors with the Brew of Strength. We have 3 regiments of Berserker Braves, a horde of boomers with Fire Oil, a horde of boomers with Healing Brew. We have 2 warlocks, both with Drain Life. One has the Loot of Insatiable Darkness, one has Banner the Griffin. We have 2 Red Goblin Bigots, both have Fleabag, Grokagamok, Nomar Garok, and Grokagamok's Finest Braves. The idea of this list is that I think that warlocks are horrifically underplayed. They are amazing, especially with Drain Life, and you could even run Aura of Heroism, although obviously I've decided not to go with that in this list. I think they are so good, such a good piece, and on top of that, it makes it so you have to run Braves. I wanted to run a bit of a different list here. I see a lot of, at least locally, when people run Ogres, a lot of shooters and a lot of siege breakers, and now the chariots, and I just, wanted to do my own thing. The idea of the loot is another combo with the Berserker Braves, because I can get a Bane Chan of 6, which is a pretty good chance of getting Piercing, and Pierce 2 boomers is nothing to shake a stick at. The Bigots are classic chaff. I really enjoy them. 75 points. They're very cheap. They have bow attacks. They're very fast. They're individuals. What's not to like? Grok, one of my favorite combat pieces in the game. I just love having the Amputator. I love having Blast on a melee attack. It's just so much fun. Nomar Garok, I've never run in the list before, but generally speaking, I just run a 3rd Warlock to get Inspiring Talisman and another Drain Life. But I didn't feel like doing that. I thought that was a little too leaning too heavily into the combo, while Nomar leans into it and does his own thing at the same time. Being able to get Vicious is very nice. Heal instead of, just having straight heal instead of Drain Life is great, even though I can only cast into combat. A second Bane Chant for combat, always helpful, and of course he's inspiring. And he only has a melee of a 5+, he does have 5 attacks, and a lot of times I need my warlocks to finish something off. And with only 2 attacks, it's just so dicey. I'd rather just go for the 5 and, try to finagle a flank or something. The Grokagamok's Finest Braves. I like the extra pip of nerf. It's great synergy with the amount of drain life I have in the list and heal overall. Iron Resolve, also good. But I question whether they're that much better than just running a horde of Berserker Braves and giving, like Caterpillar Potion or some other 20-point item. But this tournament allows, I believe that's Edge of the Abyss, where these come from. So in most tournaments don't. So I'm sort of trying to playtest it, put my money where my mouth is, as I don't understand why more tournaments don't allow these. They don't seem that great. Anyway, on to the game. Here we see that from the image one, I have forgotten to take a setup picture of either the table or the initial army setup, but this is right after my opponent's turn one. Sorry about the coughing. I'm gonna doing that a fair amount. Got a bit of a cold. Anyway, so we've seen the end of his turn one. He has cast Surge, but pretty much nothing else to go through his army. Oh, and let's not, focus too much on the unpainted models. He has only had this stuff for, I think, like maybe 2 weeks, so he's making some great progress. Me, on the other hand, I'm doing alright, I guess. Starting with his left, we have the troop of Thule. Next to them is a Knucker. Poking out behind that little cottage is the Kraken. Next to them, the little painted red War Machine models are his first troop of Wraiths. Behind the rock behind them is where the Platinum Defender is. We can't see, hide nor hair of them. Next to them, we've got the Horde of Ensnares. Behind them, it's a little hard to make it out, but that's the other troop of Wraiths. He's using different models because he actually forgot one of his Wraith troops, so I just threw something together for him real quick. So don't worry too much about that. Behind them, we've got the Necromancer. To his right, we have the Legion of Zombies on that beautiful new Games Workshop ship. The other half of the ship is in the Gigas. I think that looks fantastic, by the way. To the right of them, he's got the Hippocampus, the new horsey that they made, seahorsey. That's the Naiad Centurion. To his right and in front of him is the second Knucker, and to his right, rounding it all out, is the horde of Worm Riders. Facing off, starting from my right, we've got Grokagamok's Finest and a bit of wheat. I'm not sure whether that was the best deployment, but I am trying to achieve more of a refuse flank with these ogres. I know that sounds really simple, but I tend to play wider armies. I like being central, so trying to get my footing again. Next to him, to his left, we've got the 3 regiments of Berserker Braves. Boom, boom, boom. Behind them, again, from left to right, we've got the first Red Goblin Big Git, then Nomar Garak, then the Banner of the Griffin Warlock, then the Loot Warlock, and the last Red Goblin Big Git. In that bit of White Woods, there are trees for this, but we took them off, as most people do while you're playing, so we can actually utilize the piece of terrain. We've got the Horde of Warriors with the Brew of Strength. Next to them is the Horde of Boomers with the Healing Brew, and slightly off frame, we've got Grokagamok and the last Horde of Boomers with the Fire Oil. I believe, yeah, this is, again, at the end of his turn 1. Ogre turn 1, I slapped out a lightning bolt onto the right flank Knucker, putting 1 wound. I do not do anything to it, don't get that boxcar, so it's fine. Over here, I tried to lightning bolt the Kraken and got a hot 0, so that was less fortunate. I did send my Red Goblin Big Git into these Wraiths. I'm basically just trying to turn off flight, but I also went for a bit of a risky maneuver as he's pushed into the middle of the field, making it so we're gonna be fighting on my side, and as we're playing Invade, I need to be a bit riskier, which means that my Braves are exposing themselves, which you'll see in a bit. Lastly, we have both my hordes of Boomers open fire into the Knucker on the left flank, putting 8 wounds onto him, a little bit owed to the Loot of Darkness, getting that piercing onto one of them. And right below there we see Grok in all of his unpainted glory. Oh, Let's go back one. I did end up killing this Knucker, but did nothing else during my turn. Over here, we see that the Goblin Big Git not only didn't kill the Wraiths, which is unlikely, but he also just did 0 wounds, which is also pretty average. So they end up flying into the flank of these Berserker Braves. I saw this coming. I would have preferred it not happening, but at the same time, I'm not super worried. 20 attacks with Nerve-16 with the Banner of the Griffin there is just really unlikely to kill him, and even if it does, it's not the end of the world. I'd like to get these Wraiths before any of those Hordes and or Legions get to me, so meh. Over here, we've got the Kraken and Thule going into my horde of boomers with the Fire Oil. I kind of forgot that the Kraken has that they had changed his profile so much. Did he always have Strider? I know he didn't have 15 attacks, so oof, that's going to be rough. Over here, you can see a better picture of how I maneuvered on the right, which is I angled more towards dealing with those Worm Riders, basically trying to take out his flanks before the center can actually get to me, because it looks like he's going to be a little over eager, and I'm just going to try to pounce on that so I can deal with his army piecemeal. You can see him measuring out the Naiad Worm Riders, and this is when I'm explaining to him that the Knucker and Worm Riders can't actually both charge Grokagamok's Finest, because the Worm Riders are on the right, thus must be on the right of the unit, and once they land, there's no room for the Knucker. Unfortunately, that means that the Knucker can go into the flank of these Braves. I didn't see this coming, and it's just so sloppy. I don't know where my head was at. Yeah, the Worm Riders charge into Grox. I think that was a mistake. It's very unlikely that they'll kill them, although this would be the time to do it, as I'm not inspired. Nomar is slightly out of 6, so some more sloppy play by me. Over here, you can see that he put 10 wounds onto my boomers, but he doesn't even waver them, killing them on the first roll with a 10 and rolling a 4 to only get that waver on the reroll. So unlucky for him. Yeah, he also had a Wraith Troop. Let's actually back up a little bit. Okay, you can't see it in these pictures. Alright, so the Wraith Troop, the second one, also charged into the Big Git, trying to take it off the board. Seems like a pretty solid plan, but actually fails. This is, again, another not even wavered, and the Placoderm Defender, you can see a little bit of his base and his hand sticking out from behind the cottage there. I'm just gonna go right for that buddy. So, sometimes rather be lucky than good. Over here, we can see that he put some wounds. Actually, during shooting, we missed it. The Thule Mythican with his Lightning Bolt 3 put 2 wounds onto my Loot Warlock, even with cover, so a bit of luck there for him, but again, it doesn't turn into anything, so how lucky can you be? The Wraiths put 6 wounds onto the Braves that they charged in the flank. That's 1 or 2 under average, so a little unlucky for him, but still, that was unlikely to actually do anything. The Knucker, this is a better picture, puts 5 wounds onto the flank of the other Braves he charged. This is a bit of compounded bad luck for my opponent, and he's, oh man, excuse me, gonna pay for it during my turn, I think. He ends up putting 6 wounds on the Grokagamok's Finest, which is actually, that's okay, but because they're Iron Resolve, they end up healing 1 back, as 6 plus 12 is only 18, so he can't possibly break me, so unfortunate for him. Ogre turn. I countercharge with Grokagamok's Finest back into the Worm Riders. I'm confident that I can at least waver them there. We have the Knucker that charged the flank of my Braves. The Braves behind them charged the flank of the Knuckers, so oof, that's pretty bad. We have surrounded him with Warlocks as well, just in case. The Wraiths that charged the flank of those Braves, the Braves go back into them. The Braves that got charged by the Knucker decide to run into the Naiad and Snares to try to hold them up a little bit. I don't expect to actually get any wounds through, as they've got Ensnare, and, I only hit on a 4+ anyway, so, By no wounds, I don't mean 0. I mean not enough to do anything, as they're 20-22. I send the horde of warriors into the rates. That should be pretty easy for them. It's 18 attacks on a 3+, that wound on a 4+, so they're only dash 12 with no inspiring, so seems good. The boomers with the healing brew. Oh, I forgot to mention during my turn, he ended up putting 1 wound on them with another shot from somewhere, and I just popped the healing brew immediately, healed it. So they go into the flank of the Kraken, which I don't think my opponent saw coming, especially as Grok gets into the front, so that's probably a dead Kraken there. Off screen, we have the the unit with 10 wounds, the Fire Oil Boomers, decide to countercharge the Thule troop. And here we see that I slap 2 wounds. What would, as a bit of an aside, what would any gamer be without some white pip on clear dice? Especially in a white mat, that's just the perfect plan. But he ends up putting, I end up putting 2 wounds on these rates by slapping some drain life and healing the 2 wounds off of my own Warlock. Over here, the Banner the Griffin Warlock puts 5 wounds onto the Knucker, which probably spells doom for him. Oh, I forgot I put that the other big git in front of the Legion of Zombies. Just, let them nom on that little gobbo, so buy me some time. I end up healing the 5 wounds off of the other troops, so this Knucker really helps me in the end, which is not great for him. That little wooden token means no more Garok cast Banechant onto that the Braves in the flank of that Knucker, so he's probably dead. The Grokagamok's finest end up putting 11 wounds onto the Naiad Worm Riders, and with Brutal, they blow right through them, kill them, even with the reroll from the Centurion. So, first bit of blood for Ogres. Oh, excuse me. This is pumping forward a little bit. I forgot to take pictures of what happened. I think this skips at least 1 turn. The Kraken gets killed by Grokagamok and the Boomers in the flank. My other Boomers end up not doing anything to the Thule troop, which is kind of funny, and then get charged and killed by that same Thule troop, so less than good. Grok ended up going forward and charging into the... Oh, I'm sorry, the... getting a little ahead of myself there. The Ogre Warriors actually only put 4 wounds onto the rates during my turn, which is that doesn't feel like that should happen, but that's actually pretty close to the average there. I end up not breaking them, obviously, so he countercharges me with the rates, a Thule Mythicon, and the Placoderm Defender, and that's not great. The rates that I charged with my Braves, that does nothing, and then the rates countercharge them and destroy them. But the Naiad and Snares and my Braves that charge them are just sort of in a little bit of a slap fight, not doing anything to each other. I end up getting 7 wounds on me, which is probably enough to kill them on the next turn. I think my opponent makes a mistake here and takes the rates that killed my first unit of Braves and goes for the flank rear charge with Surge into these guys with 7 wounds already on them. I think he kind of wanted to mess around with Surge a bit, but that just can't be the right choice, I feel. The Naiad Centurion actually, after my excuse me, my Braves killed that Knucker, they backed up and they rolled the 3, which is unfortunate because that exposed the flank of Nomargarok to the Centurion, who decided to go in, did 5 wounds to him, and again, didn't waver him. So I take the Nomargarok and my the Braves into the front and flank of that Centurion, put 7 wounds on him, and waver him. I now have 7 wounds on my Goblin Big Git, who still is not even wavered, and he decides to just book it right in front of that Legion of Zombies and be the second Goblin to, die for the cause. Grokagamok on the turn right before this, on my turn, decides to charge the Placoderm Defender, thinking it's an easy kill, but doesn't actually get anything through, so that's unfortunate for him. I turn the horde of boomers with the healing brew around, or that had a healing brew at one point. They shoot at that Thule troop. They're surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, I guess, there's no picture of that, so I'll just tell you, they killed him with the 1 or 2 wounds that they sunk, as the other boomer horde put, I think, 4 or 5 on him. So, you know, pretty likely. I the Placoderm Defender there, and Wraith and Mythican go into the Warriors, putting 5 wounds on them. And I'm pretty sure this wavers them. There might be a picture in a second here. We'll see. Over here, oh, sorry, we have the Gigas charging into Grokagamok's Finest. Let's see if they can drop them, where the Worm Riders failed. Nope, they end up putting 7 wounds on me, and I still don't have, I still don't really see the point in giving them Inspiring, so he doesn't roll the boxcar. I heal the wound off, and we're staring at each other. Over here we see that the Wraiths and Ensnares obliterate that regiment of Braves. That's pretty likely. But unfortunately, again, some bad luck falls for my opponent when the warrior combat ends up getting 11 wounds on them, and they're only wavered. So I guess they had 5 wounds on them before and got wavered. Now they have 11, again, are wavered, so they're just sort of sitting there. On my turn, I bring the boomers back around to shoot into the Wraiths. They kill them. I move my Warlocks around. That Banner the Griffin guy is facing the wrong direction, but trust me, he's facing forward. I don't know why he ended up facing this way, but I think we had some looky-loos that wanted to take a look at the models. But anyway, I throw some Drain Life into the Naiads and Snares just to get some easy heal up, but I only end up getting 2 with the loot guy who's right next to my warriors, while the banner guy ends up getting 2 as well to heal off of Nomar. Nomar Garok casts Bane Chant onto Grokagamok's Finest, and they make short work of the Gigas, even with Big Shield. Countercharge, 30 attacks with Elite and Vicious and Crushing 2 and Brutal. That's not something you want to face. My Grok decides to charge into the Wraiths, having enough of that. Blows right through them and past them. The Warriors just sit there. They can't move, so whatever. I end up... Wait, hold on. Let's go back one. What is this showing? Not sure what... Oh, yes, the Brutes, or Braves, end up going into the Centurion who was wavered and killing him even in the front. Although he doesn't have an Ensnare, so I guess it's not relevant. Grokagamok's Finest easily blow through the Gigas. Or maybe not easily, but they definitely kill him. This guy, just stares at them. Oh, this is showing off that the Wraiths were killed by my Boomers. I'm very good at this. Yeah, so Boomers getting work done. Nothing to be surprised with there. Yep, Grok kills the Wraith troop. And finally, on his turn, he charges me with the Placoderm Defender and Thule Mythican into the Warriors, and finally gets him off the board. I have put now a mighty 2 wounds on the Ensnares as they just regened everything I've done back. Over here, we see the aftermath of this, which is the Legion of Zombies had a tricksy little flank charge using Surge into my Banner the Griffin guy. So he's dead. He's in the bottom of the picture, but I'm taking him off the board right now. And he is repositioning to not get flank charged. So I decide to go into the front with him with Grokagamok's Finest, who are hindered, and the regular Braves. Always good to slap some zombies around. The big thing that happens is that Grokagamok himself gets into the rear of the Ensnarers. Now, he's popped the Dragon Charge shield, but I still wound him on 2s, and I have 21 attacks that turn into D3. And I also, for good measure, throw the Boomers into the flank, and Nomar gives them the Vicious and Bane Chant 1, so they've got an extra pip of Crushing for Crush 2. Ogre Warlock there tries to drain life onto that Placoderm Defender, but doesn't land any hits, so meh. Excuse me. We see here that yeah, I don't even roll the I don't even roll the boomers. Grok goes in there and gets 35 hits after the amputator multiplication, and yeah, ends up doing 30 wounds to them and just poof, gone. Uh, his finest, on the other hand, and the regular Braves only managed 9 wounds on those zombies, so I don't even get to roll. They are absolutely fine. Then the zombies decide, or my opponent Aaron decides that he wants to see whether the zombies would be a good matchup against Grokagamok's finest Braves, as he's just been throwing these elite units into him. And I agree with this. I think that with the 40 attacks they have and the very high nerve, I think that this is the right choice to go into Grok's finest. So yeah, he ends up finally getting the kill on them, so that's good, and reforms the face. Over here, yeah. I think we have... Oops. Why did that show up? Okay. Oh my god. Okay, so, yeah, sorry about that. There's a little mix-up. We have... Yeah, the Placoderm Defender decides to go into the rear of those boomers. Doesn't even get a wound on them. It's unfortunate. And, unfortunately, again, I forgot to take pictures of that last turn. So, what I do here is send the... last unit of Braves there at the bottom into the front of the Legion, but I can't send Grok in there because if he charges, he will take himself out of my opponent's side of the board. So Grok decides to just move over to the flank just in case this is turn 7, and Nomar just nimble pivots and runs into his side of the board, and the boomers pivot, and everyone's on his side now. And the Zombie Legion, who only have 8 wounds on them, actually get popped by these Braves charging in. So that was, again, some very good luck, and/or some very bad luck for my opponent. So it's unfortunate for him. But I think he played really well. It's, honestly impressive. I don't think I played all that well. In fact, I just keep looking at all these mistakes I'm making. Like my deployment mistakes, and I kept getting flank charged by someone who barely understood the game. That's just, it's not where you want to be at. So, that's what happens. Moving on to the results. We have, I ended up with 5 unit strength in his side of the board. He only has the Placoderm Defender and Wizard left, so 0 unit strength. I end up getting it 2,035 points for attrition, while he has 1,315, which modifies it to a 17-3 victory for the Ogres. I think, looking back on it, the mistakes I made mostly come down to... I think I was just playing sloppy. Part of it was me trying to show a new player how the game is played, but a lot of it just comes down to, wanting to do stuff and not really checking my angles first. I mean, I just can't be doing that. I do think Aaron did very well for his first game, and I'm always happy to see more players. The Pacific Northwest, where I live, is not the biggest area for King's War, but it was definitely a very big rank and file area for a long time. So I'm hoping to, that we can get some growth going here. Anyway, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this first battle report, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a good night. Goodbye.